Hello, and welcome to Careers with History. My name is Florence, and in this session, my colleague Lisa and I will be taking you through what history is, the various careers you can pursue with a history degree, and the kind of skills you can develop through studying history. By the end of this session, you will have an understanding of the career opportunities available to students with a degree in history, the transferable skills provided by studying history, and how studying history helps us to understand the present. But before we dive into that, we will give you a brief introduction of who Lisa and I are and what we've done with our history degrees so far.
Hi everyone, my name is Lisa Trischler, and I completed my undergraduate degree in art history and English literature at the University of Toronto. I decided that I was interested in the medieval period during my undergraduate degree, so I came to Leeds for my MA in the Institute for Medieval Studies at Leeds, and then my PhD in the same department as well. One great thing about studying history is that it can be very interdisciplinary, so you can take things in your own personal direction, which is what I'm doing with my PhD. I can combine art history, literature, and history together. I do this by studying medieval art history and literature in Italy. So I look at an Italian author named Dante Alighieri and think about how the building boom of the 14th century influenced his poem, which is called the Divine Comedy. You may be familiar with this poem with the likes of books and movies like Dan Brown's Inferno. So, as you may be able to tell by my accent, I am also a Canadian. And one great thing that you can do with a career in history is travel to various countries to do your research. So I've completed my MA, and now I'm doing my PhD in the UK. I've also traveled to the USA, Italy, and throughout England to present research papers. The picture in the top right is from a conference I attended in Birmingham where I presented a paper. While studying, I've also been able to travel all over England to various medieval sites and museums. I've also had the opportunity to travel to Italy to present a paper and complete my research by going to various buildings to look at the architecture and artifacts within them. The bottom pictures are just a few images from the site visits I conducted in 2017 in Florence, Italy, where I looked at over 40 different churches and civic sites. The bottom right image is particularly interesting because I actually found this fresco in what is now a restaurant called the Fishing Lab, which was integral to my research, but the best part is that the food was also incredible too. During this trip, I also visited a church that has very little written about it in books. However, being there allowed me to take pictures and perform my own research, and now it has a big role in my book. Both of these were great experiences, not just for my research, but for other developments as well, like public speaking, practicing my language skills, making connections with other researchers as well. But they also were fantastic for getting to see other parts of the world and experiencing other cultures. We'll talk a little bit more about this and some of these transferable skills later on, but I'll just continue on now with the different opportunities I've had with my degree. I've also learned to decipher different handwriting with paleography skills, as well as learned 2 new languages, Italian and Latin. I was even photographed for a British Library advertisement, which is the top left photo there. I'm looking at a very interesting medieval manuscript there. So I've taught different undergraduate courses as well in the School of History, English, as well as Italian. And this has really solidified my desire to become a professor once I have completed my PhD. But I've also had many opportunities working in different arts and cultural settings that I could pursue as well. For example, I worked at the University College London Special Collections Library, where I learned book preservation skills and also selected manuscripts to display within the collection. I also worked at the Art Gallery of Ontario, a Canadian art gallery in Toronto, where I wrote the descriptions for medieval books for a new exhibition. I've also had the opportunity to think about how the medieval past impacts our present by writing an article on the far right's use of Crusader symbolism, which is actually due to come out this year, as well as a YouTube project that looked at how the current pandemic allows us to ask new questions about the medieval period, specifically my research in Dante's literature. So these are just a few of the very interesting things that I've been able to do with a history degree just while I'm still studying. And I'm very excited as to what I might be able to do when I'm actually finished my PhD degree.
I started my degree in history at Leeds in 2013. I didn't know what kind of history I was interested in and took the opportunity to learn about as many different areas of history as possible. Leeds gives you options for modules in lots of different topics, and even different subjects, as well as the core modules which cover the medieval and modern worlds. I did some 20th century history, some medieval history, and some Tudor history, as well as modules in other schools in English, philosophy, politics, and history of science. I realised I was most interested in medieval history, and so went on to study my master's degree and eventually my PhD here at Leeds in medieval studies. A PhD is a project that is essentially researching and writing a book which will be examined. PhDs focus on a very specific topic that you will become an expert on by the end of your research. My PhD looks at medieval queens and their coronations. The picture on the left is from when I got to be dressed up as a medieval queen as part of an event about historical clothing. I've spoken about medieval queens at international conferences and given public lectures. In the middle is a picture of me sitting on the Iron Throne from Game of Thrones at the International Medieval Congress. I've also done research trips abroad, and the picture on the right is me standing in front of a church in Normandy that one of the queens I study had built in the 11th century. One thing that is really important to me is sharing my research with a wide audience. This is because I'm committed to the idea that everyone should get a chance to feel like history is for them and about them, no matter their circumstances, where they come from, their race, gender, sexuality, or family background. I've been asked to speak on popular podcasts and have recently turned my research into an email newsletter that has hundreds of subscribers from all different backgrounds who are interested in what I do. Doing a PhD has also allowed me to work part-time, teaching undergraduate students, as well as working in university outreach. I've had the chance to work with school pupils of all ages and from all different backgrounds to help them get to university, which has hopefully made a difference to a lot of young people. I've even been asked to share my expertise on history to help teachers create a more inclusive curriculum. Being a historian has allowed me to build a social media presence where I can share my research with others and work alongside my colleagues to amplify important topics within academia and public history, such as racism, disability access, and mental health awareness. Studying history has given me skills as well as experiences and opportunities. Writing essays at university has allowed me to really improve upon my written expression so that I can convey my ideas clearly in writing. History seminars are also where I learn to give presentations to my peers and have class discussions where spoken communication was really important. I developed confidence in my ideas and my ability to share them with others. During my master's degree, I learned more specialised skills, like how to read medieval handwriting, how to translate medieval Latin, but most importantly, how to conduct independent research into a specialist topic. I feel confident that when I want to find out more about a topic, I know where to go, who to consult, and how to navigate different ideas and opinions, and I think that's a really invaluable skill that I'm proud to have. History, who it should be about and who gets to write it, have become contentious debates in the media. When I graduate from my PhD, I will be considering a range of different career paths, not just academic. But I'm happy that whatever I end up doing, I will be able to use the skills I've learned during my PhD to continue to research history and engage in public education about the past, ensuring that history can be for everyone.
Okay, so to get us all warmed up, we're going to do a quick true or false quiz. So there will be 5 questions, and there will be a pause between each question before I give you the answer in order for you to have some time to come up with your own answer. So, question 1. In classical Greece, writers did not use spaces between words. True or false? So, the answer to this one is true. They didn't use spacing between words. I, for one, am very happy that my own research doesn't involve learning classical Greek because I think I would have a really hard time trying to decipher what those documents said. Question. So in 1918, all women over 21 got the vote in the UK. Is this true or false? So this is false. In 1918, only women over 30 who owned property got the vote. It wasn't until 1928 that their voting rights were made equal with men. Question 3. California and Texas were once part of Mexico. True or false? The answer here is true. California and Texas were a part of Mexico from 1821. Texas became its own country in 1836 and then joined the United States in 1845, while California joined the USA in 1848. So the fourth question. Medieval manuscripts were written on paper. True or false? So the answer is false. They were actually written on specifically treated animal skin called parchment or vellum, and paper did not actually become common in Europe until 1450. And for the final question, question number 5, the Great Pyramid of Giza is the only one of the ancient wonders of the world that still stands. True or false? So the answer here is true. Unfortunately, the other 6 wonders of the world no longer exist, but they were the Colossus of Rhodes, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, the statue of Zeus at Olympia, and the Temple of Artemis.
So there wouldn't be much point in talking to you about history without first thinking about what history is. What do you think? There will be lots of different valid answers to this question. Pause the video to write down your answer. So what did you come up with? There are lots of ways of thinking about what history is. History is the study of the past or a record of past events. It can be about understanding a particular place, country, or subject in a particular period. It can be about understanding the people or events that came before us. It can be about studying primary sources and acquiring knowledge and skills. It can also help us understand the present. The word history comes from the ancient Greek word historia, meaning inquiry or knowledge acquired by investigation. Historians acquire knowledge about the past through analysing primary sources. Studying history is kind of like solving a mystery. Primary sources provide clues that you have to analyse in order to understand the bigger picture. Knowledge of the past is essential to society. What happens in the present and what will happen in the future is very much governed by what happened in the past. History can also help us to understand the present. Have you ever wanted to know how dictators take power? Where social movements like feminism and civil rights come from? How major religions developed and grew? Why countries go to war? Or what caused the refugee crisis? Studying history is the only way we can answer these important, interesting, and complex questions. Many people have a passionate interest in finding out about what really did happen in the past, and many of the world's major tourist spots relate to the appeal of the past. It is historians who provide the contextual knowledge that eventually works its way into the guidebooks. Historians also provide the contextual knowledge for great works of art and literature. Studying history develops an understanding that everything written pertaining to history, secondary or primary, must be approached with skepticism and caution. It develops the ability to distinguish between pieces of writing which are logical assessments of history based on evidence and which are not. The skills and learning outcomes rising from historical study are invaluable in a world which is dominated by information and communications through the internet, television, and social media, and can help us understand where we are being misled or given false information.
So now that we understand what history is, what careers do you think involve studying history? Pause the video to take some time to write down your own list of careers you think involve studying history, and then unpause. So welcome back. This is a list of just some of the careers you might have written down. Some of the careers you can pursue are historian or university professor, or a history teacher. As Florence and I noted, we have already been able to experience some of the tasks we would need for this role, just like making this video for you today. We've been able to teach various topics to different age groups, as well as research and write articles and papers on our topics. The PhD program at Leeds has given us the opportunities to develop these skills and to try out this profession before we finish our training. Another great option is a librarian. A librarian is in charge of collecting, organizing, and issuing library resources such as books, films, and audio files. They work in a range of settings, including public libraries, schools, and museums. Another great opportunity is to work as a museum curator, especially in the UK, where there are so many museums. You could work as I did for an art museum, or you could work at other culture and heritage places, like an English heritage site or the National Trust, as well as many other local museums. Many countries have their own archives as well. Archivists are responsible for assembling, cataloging, preserving, and managing valuable collections of historical information, such as the National Archives in London. And finally, you can have a career as an archaeologist. They study past human activity by excavating, dating, and interpreting objects and sites of historical interest. They implement excavation projects, informally known as digs, and preserve archaeological remains and collect data that inform their understanding of the past. I've always wanted to go on a dig somewhere, and there are plenty of sites within England, but if you're interested in travel, this might be a good option too.
But what if you don't want to go into one of those career areas? What if you're interested in studying history but don't want to work in it? What if you have a particular career in mind that isn't a history-related job? What if you want as many career options as possible? A history degree is not just useful for historians. It provides a skill set that has many different applications and can help in many different careers. History requires you to be able to observe the past, empathize with people, and gain an awareness of different cultures. It is an exercise in logical and critical thinking which involves complex problem solving. You need to be able to understand multiple perspectives at once and form an opinion confidently. It involves curiosity, creativity, and passion. These are skills that many different employers would value. Now reflect on all these skills. Thinking about the list of jobs in history we just made, now consider what other jobs these skills might be useful for. Pause the video and write down your answers.
Here is a list of a number of jobs that you could think about applying these skills to obtain. This is in no way a full list of all the jobs out there that you could do with a history degree, but we thought we would give you some examples. I won't take you through all of them, but I will discuss a few of them in relation to what skills might be used for these careers. Many of the skills that are transferable are applicable to most professions, but let's look at a career in law. So if you were thinking of becoming a lawyer, you would need skills in ethical judgment, understanding multiple perspectives, complex problem solving, cultural awareness, creativity, weighing evidence skeptically, as well as personal and social responsibility. So already you can see how deciphering primary sources with a history degree can help you develop key skills you would need to become a lawyer. Writing skills are also important for most careers. Writing historical essays during your degree will help you to understand biases. It will force you to ask difficult questions and take a long view of society, weighing evidence skeptically and considering more than one side of every question. By thinking critically about these things and developing your arguments in written form, you could be preparing yourself for a career in journalism as well. A newspaper article must have clear sources and evidence that supports the main story, just as a history essay would as well. A history degree also develops skills in understanding and grappling with complex moral issues. This can be very helpful in a career in law or journalism, but also working for a charity, because a history degree can help to foster social justice, fight racism, and promote environmental sustainability, amongst other things. So these are just a few examples of other careers you can have that are non-historical.
To give you an example of the diverse range of careers that people with history degrees go into, here are a number of famous people that have studied history at university. Diane Abbott, Labour MP, studied history at Cambridge and then worked for the civil service as a race relations officer. She was elected as the MP for Hackney in 1987, becoming the UK's first black woman MP, and has retained that seat ever since. She's not the only UK politician with a history degree. 5 British Prime Ministers have studied history at university. And it's not just British politicians either. The recently elected US President Joe Biden also majored in history at the University of Delaware before training further as a lawyer and eventually making his way into politics. He joins a long list of US presidents who were history majors, including both the Roosevelts, Wilson, Kennedy, Nixon, Bush Jr., and Eisenhower. Steve Carell is a comedic actor who you might recognize from the US Office, Anchorman, or the Netflix sitcom Space Force. Carell got interested in history after joining a reenactment group that portrayed the British Royal Lincolnshire Regiment. After graduating with a history degree, he initially worked for the Postal Service before transitioning to comedy acting in the 1990s and quickly became the star of many late-night shows and comedy films. Likewise, Sacha Baron Cohen, who is most well known for playing the comedy characters Bruno, Borat, and Ali G, studied history with a focus on anti-Semitism at Cambridge. Within 3 years of graduating, Baron Cohen had his first spot on TV, and his career in international fame has grown from there for his often controversial brand of comedy acting. Lauryn Hill was already a successful rapper and singer when she majored in history at Columbia University and had to quit her studies when she became famous due to her album sales heading into the millions. Widely regarded as one of the best and most influential rappers of all time, Hill attributed her achievements to her love of education and academia. Shakira managed to avoid the problems Lauryn Hill faced. After achieving international success and fame as a singer and performer, Shakira enrolled in a degree program at UCLA in a course in ancient philosophy and history. She disguised herself with an uncharacteristically masculine appearance and went by the name Isabel so she wouldn't be recognized. So not only might a history degree lead you into a successful career in the public eye, but it's also possible that you might be sitting next to a global superstar in your seminars. But it's not just famous faces who have earned success with their history degrees. The CEO of Sony, the head of the National Criminal Intelligence Service, and the director of Bank of England are all jobs which have been held by history graduates.
Okay, so hopefully you all have had a good understanding of what career opportunities you can access with a history degree in terms of historical as well as non-historical jobs. You can also identify some of the transferable skills you develop while studying a history degree, and finally, how understanding what happened in the past helps us to understand our current time. Thank you very much for listening to our presentation today.